Hi, this is Kate from Generate Magic, and today I want to talk about manifesting your desires if you struggle with anything that we might consider like a psychological issue like ADHD, obsessive thinking, rumination, anxiety, depression, and this was inspired by a comment I saw in another video recently. And I very much resonated with it because these are all things that I've struggled with at various times in my life too. And so first of all, I want to say to drop the labels and to stop saying that you have a disorder. And again, this is something that I can very much relate to, and I can understand that if you say, I have such and such disorder, like I have ADHD, then it kind of gives you a sense of comfort, right? Like it kind of gives you a sense of validation. And you think, well, maybe, now that I know what I'm struggling with, now that I have this label, then I can go about resolving it. But the thing is that, and this ties into the law of assumption, that if we're assuming that identity for ourselves, if we're assuming the identity of somebody with ADHD, then that's always going to be our reality, right? And we're always going to we're always going to see those symptoms in our reality. And so instead you could say, well, this is something that I'm experiencing right now, and whatever symptoms it is that you're experiencing. So I am experiencing distractedness, or I'm experiencing anxiety or depression or obsessive thinking. And because these are all just like experiences that we're having a reality, right? And so again, this isn't to deny your experience, but once you recognize it as just an experience that you have, then you have the freedom to choose a new experience. And it's also, I think it's much easier to work with an experience or a tendency or a behavioral pattern, whatever you want to call it, than it is to work with a disorder. Because notice when you, even just saying the word disorder, it feels very heavy, it feels very solid. And even in the medical community, we're always told, right, that there's no cure for these disorders, that there's no cure for ADHD or for depression, that all we can hope to do is to manage the symptoms. And so that right there, by identifying with these labels, it kind of backs you into a corner. And so let's take distractedness. This is something that I often struggle with. This is something that many people struggle with. And we very much live in a society, in our modern society, that is just filled with distractions, right? And I think everybody, to some degree or another, has struggled with this in their life, or has experienced this in their life. Yeah, I should use the word experience, not struggle. And so the last video that I made really, which I will link to in the description, I think really ties into this. And so the last video was about basically the importance of structures and systems. And so if you have a system or a structure in place, think of it, I like to think of it kind of as a life raft. And so even if you're out at sea, adrift in all your thoughts and distractions, and the life raft is something that you can grab onto at any time and almost immediately redirect your focus or go back to center. And I like to think of it as a friend that's always there for me. And so I very much, and this is why I'm very much a fan of routines or processes. So I have little affirmation routines that I do in the morning. And so I have these affirmations that are written in a place where I can easily access them. And so I like to use my notes app on my phone. You could write them on a physical note card. So anytime that you find yourself spiraling or caving into obsessive thinking or ruminating or depression, fearful thinking, you can just look at that affirmation and you can write affirmations that are specific to all of these situations, right? And so I like having I like having some of those, right? Some more specific affirmations, and also just some more kind of what I like to call core affirmations. And so an example of that would be, I am God in action, and there is no other source. or I am an expression of God's love. And so whatever it is for you that helps you to feel a sense of calm, a sense of peace, a sense of unity and oneness. And this person also in the comment mentioned that, visualization is difficult for her because of her distractedness. And I feel you on that one, right? It can be, I think it can be hard for anyone to focus on a single image if, we always have tons of images and visuals that are kind of dancing around in our head at any time. And so I find affirmations a very simple, very helpful way to immediately redirect your focus to whatever it is that you want to focus on. And you'll naturally, as you're reading the affirmations, you'll naturally form visuals in your mind anyway. So it's really not anything to worry about. And then as far as like the obsessive thinking, I've actually kind of found a way to make the obsessiveness work in my favor. And so I will obsessively come up with, so let's say that I have just this really kind of recurrent disempowering belief, like nothing I do matters, and I just keep repeating it to myself over and over again. I can't seem to shake it. And so not only will I come up with a counter belief for that or a counter affirmation, but I will try to hit it from all angles. And so I will, so I'll say, I am everything I do matters. I matter. Everything I do has impact. I am making an amazing impact. So you can see, right, how you're kind of hitting it from all angles. And then I'm a huge fan of mind maps. I find mind maps is a really excellent way to help you maintain your focus or to redirect your focus if you find yourself kind of spiraling or getting off course in any way. And I actually, and again, this might sound a little bit obsessive, but I figure if I'm going to obsessively think about something, it might as well be something that works in my favor instead of something that works against me. And so I actually have all of my affirmations categorized on a mind map. And then I also just kind of have like general like goals and like all the different like action steps to get to those goals all kind of like charted out there. And I also just kind of have like little reminders for certain situations because I can kind of like anticipate almost like at certain moments where I might spiral, I might cave into frustration, discouragement, lack-based thinking. And so I have little reminders to go to, for those types of situations, like, remember everything is always working out for you. It's whatever, again, it's whatever affirmations resonate with you, right? And for me, that one does resonate with me because even in situations where like at the time, like I felt like it was hopeless, I felt like everything was working against me, it turned out that everything was really working in my favor and everything turned out for the best in the end. And another thing that you can use, another statement just to kind of like redirect your focus, and this comes from reality transurfing. So it's, I see myself, I see my reality. And so anytime you find yourself either getting sucked in by inner or outer conditions, and so outer conditions are reacting to things in your physical reality, your quote unquote 3D, or inner conditions would be any sort of like unpleasant thoughts that you're having that are causing you a lot of distress, you can say that statement, and it's just kind of like a way of bringing yourself back to center. Just like I like that analogy because I like to play tennis, and each time you hit the ball, you always want to go back to the center of the court. And so finally, I think this is the most important point, is just kind of remembering the purpose of all of this. And the purpose of all of this, I feel, all of this manifestation stuff, is to really just feel our oneness with Source and to remember who we truly are underneath all of these changing inner and outer conditions. And who we truly are is love, pure and simple. And so that's, and so when you feel that, it just feels really good, right? It's just a really good, peaceful feeling. And it's not just about, feeling, slapping on some happy, positive feelings. But it's like, it feels very like genuine. It's just this sense of wholeness, it's this sense of oneness with everything, and just this sense of gratitude for being alive. And there's really nothing like it. And so that to me is kind of like it's basically the bigger picture, right? It's what all of this is really about. And so again, I can very much relate to this. So if you find yourself kind of worrying and ruminating and yeah, getting caught up in, if you're already kind of prone to anxiety and depression anyway, and then you have this big goal, like, oh, what if I just lose the weight, or if I just get the job promotion, then I'll finally feel good. And you place all this importance on the goal, and then it ends up kind of leading to more distress, right? And more kind of anxiety and fearful thinking, beating yourself up. And because I think kind of sometimes when we kind of think about this thought, oh, we create our reality, it can be like a very empowering thought, right? But it can also be very disempowering. It can kind of give us an excuse to kind of look at something that isn't so favorable and say, and kind of get angry at ourselves for creating it, and which is not what we want. And I also think there's very much kind of like, there can be sort of like a keeping up with the Joneses sort of mentality to all of this too, where you're kind of looking, especially if you spend a lot of time on social media and you're looking at all these people that say, oh, I manifested $1 million in a day. And sure, you can see it like in different ways, right? You can kind of see it as, see it as very inspirational, and if they did it, I can do it too, right? That would be the most empowering perspective to take. But we could also kind of use it, again, to kind of like beat ourselves up, or to feel discouraged that we're not where they are at. And I think it can be very easy to fall. I know it can be easy to fall into this trap, because I've fallen in there many times. But how I always bring myself back to center, is always just kind of remembering the true purpose of all of this. And again, tapping into that unity, remembering the bigger picture, and remembering that it's really not about the thing, right? It's not about the SP or the money or the weight loss or whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. It's really about achieving this oneness with Source, and achieving this sense of unity, and doing whatever it takes to feel this sense of unity, and making that your number one priority, right? Not making the fulfillment of the physical manifestation of your desire your number one priority. And there's a video I made about this that I'll link to, but yeah, just kind of, I like to call it, how they always say, kind of leave a place, when you go to a place, they say leave the place better than when you found it. I like to say, if I'm feeling crappy for any reason, go to a better state than I was in before, right? Or a better, I guess the analogy doesn't quite work, but I think you get what I mean. A better state than it was when I found it. And just kind of always thinking, well, what's a more empowering belief that I can tap into? And because you notice how, like, if you say these things to yourself, right, like, oh, nothing I do is working, like, I'm so broke, my SP doesn't love me, nobody loves me, you see how all of those thoughts are very disempowering, right? Like, you see them immediately, you feel very crappy. And so instead, I like to do, rampages too, where you just kind of go like in a stream, and just do whatever it takes to drown out that previous state, and to feel more empowered, and to feel that oneness with Source. And I know for me, once I made that my priority, and really I would say A Course in Miracles has also been very key to my whole process, and just remembering the bigger point of this all. And the final thing that I want to leave you with is, anytime you have a thought that distresses you, just asking yourself, and this comes from A Course in Miracles, can I see love instead of this? Or can I see peace instead of this? And so with that, thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.